Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? This is Dave Cirino with Studio Talk, and this is our um, first episode. And today we have our first guest is actually my brother, who is also my um, manager and producer. So yeah, welcome, Steve.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be a part of your first episode and part of this process. Thanks for having me. And I do have a question for you though. Before you get into my questions,
Yeah.
where have you been? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I know your audience, your subscribers, your followers. They probably want to know that.
Yeah, man, that's a good question, man. It's been a while since I posted content on YouTube, but I took some time to you know just be with my family, and I got married. I have a beautiful son, 3 years old now, and he actually he might pop in. So if he pops in, he whatever he's he's gonna say hello to the camera to the audience, but. And I'm having another baby in 2 weeks, man. So I took a mental break, man, just to even with recording music, I just kind of took a break, just to reset myself and be with my family, my loved ones, and also you guys, like my siblings, my parents. We did lose some family members during the pandemic, and so we just wanted to take some time to make sure that everybody was okay, emotionally healing, and just to be there for them. And I just thought that was more important than anything. Plus, with the pandemic, was was just crazy too, man. That's a whole nother episode within itself. But um, I do, the channel. Thanks for everyone who still have stayed with me and remained a subscriber. The content on the channel is still, great for people who need a refresher. It's more like an archive kind of series now. So if you need to go back and learn how to build a home studio, things like that, that content's there. So, but I'm looking forward to moving forward and being back and doing some new cool stuff like this series, Studio Talk.
Awesome. No, I'm glad to have you back, creating that content and excited to be part of the new push.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. So now I'm going to ask you a couple questions.
All right.
um, yeah. So everyone, this is my brother Steve Cirino, and he's just, yeah, in my eyes, like a music mogul. And as far as with independent artists and things like that. So Steve, why don't you just kind of tell the people who are not familiar with who you are, kind of like who you are, what you do, and things like that.
Yeah. So, like you're saying, Steven Cirino, started off in the music industry working for Sony Music Entertainment via Red Distribution, which is now known as The Orchard, and spent some time as an intern there as an online marketing representative. Then I got into distribution, supply chain, working out physical and digital releases, working with retailers, all those different things. And through that process, I was there for 8 years. Was able to start my own management company, obviously working with you, other artists. Started managing like Hart Ramsey, R&B gospel artists. And that expanded into consulting, working with companies that are established but are, looking for any assistance with particular projects. Um, and has got a chance to work with Bliss Life Records, which has Grammy nominated singer songwriter Amel Larue, and now managing consultant for a company called Commonwealth, which is doing some really great things in the hip hop world, R&B world. So getting a chance to stay active with projects, consulting wise, advising wise as well. Looking at kind of a consultant advisor for Commonwealth, but it's been exciting. Obviously, as a creative as well, working with you, connecting dots for sync licensing. It's been a really great thing.
That's good stuff there, man. So you started off at Sony Records. Is that correct, or as an intern,
So I
or?
want to say it's like Sony Music Entertainment is the I call it a distribution company. It's funny I didn't mention I also teach at the University of the Arts within the music business program, something I do as well outside of my other career paths that I'm on. Um, but so a class I teach is called digital distribution, and in there, kind of discuss what distribution really is. So Sony Music Entertainment is really the distributor,
Yeah.
also called, record company, all those things, a major label, but they're really that company that now has divisions under them. They acquire some independent distributors uh, to help them facilitate their distribution channels. So Sony, my checks came from Sony Music Entertainment. That was the headquarters, but I was a part of a division called Red Distribution, which assigned independent labels for distribution and also marketing services where requested, and also was kind of a called like incubator in a sense, where Sony will have artists that they were working with that needed some assistance with developing their marketing and branding for that artist. So we'll come in and work with them. Artists like Brandy Carlisle is an artist that when I first started it was under Red Ink, they called it then. Band called the Ting Tings, which was under Columbia and really had a hit record. So those types of artists that we work with. So and now, like I said, the Red is now the Orchard. The Orchard actually they kind of combined and became the Orchard, and still under Sony Music Entertainment though as that major distributor.
Wow, yeah. That's really great, man. So yeah, it's funny because I actually started off when I was in college. My senior year in college, I went to Montclair State in in New Jersey. I actually interned at Sony myself, so it was a good
Yeah, yeah,
experience.
yeah.
Yeah,
You were the innovator. You're the first to do
yeah, I
it.
was the first one. I was the innovator, and it was a good experience for me to do that and meet so many people, record executives, all types of artists on the label at the time. And I met like Beyonce's father, Matthew Knowles, and he's always come through because she's on Columbia, and just it was just a great experience for me, man. And I think that kind of like that got you rolling like, oh yeah, this is cool, man. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
me
no,
work, yeah, go ahead.
no, I'm saying you being able to do that. It's like, oh, maybe that's a possibility for me to do that.
Yeah,
And
yeah. So me working there, I didn't really seeing like the behind the scenes and day to day of the executives. That wasn't for me, man. But I'm glad I got a chance to see that, witness that, to kind of figure out what I wanted to do with my music career. But it's funny because even like when we first started, we were trying to get a record deal, but it's funny how things work out because now that our album that we worked on, I want you to talk about after this is we actually now have distribution through AWOL/Sony. So that's really cool.
yeah, yeah, because AWOL is a company that was owned by Cobalt Music Group, which is a really large publishing company. And recently, Sony Music Entertainment bought out AWOL, and we had a distribution deal with AWOL before it was um, early days before it really became a known name, and then we just happened to be part of that process, that changeover. So it's interesting that now we're technically in the Sony system once they were acquired.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. So you mentioned that I'm not sure if you mentioned, but you are also a producer. And you actually executive produce our album together, Love Motion Equinox, which is out now, and just an amazing record. And I did some joints, you did some joints, we collabed, and it just came out incredible. I wanted you to talk about, if you wanted to, just some of like your production techniques, some of the gear that you're using or have used in previous projects, and things like that.
Yeah, as a producer, I always say, even though someone's on the business side, I'm pretty sure at somewhere down the line they were creative and pursued those things. And I think, working produce, helping executive produce Love Motion Equinox was a true honor, true privilege. And myself, as far as producing, I want to say that I use Logic Pro, and I think I always say to each their own. I remember when I went down to Hart Ramsey, again, the artist that I was managing studio, and showed me Logic, introduced me to it, and I saw it was really streamlined. Um, we get like great access into producing. And again, Heart uses many different things, but Logic really stuck out. And then came back to you and say, hey, listen, I think we need to get this system because we're utilizing other things which were cool, but I was thinking, I think Logic might be more streamlined. So we started using that, and we became kind of natural with producing. So I use that, utilize um, a Novation hook-in to create content, playing chords and synths and all that stuff. So yeah, I utilize that.
Yeah, man, I actually remember that. I remember you came to me and said, "Yo, man, we gotta get up on this Logic, bro. This Logic is where it's at." It's funny because at that time, uh, we're going back years ago. Logic was really an innovator, actually, because you had programs like Pro Tools. Now you got Fruity Loops and Ableton Live and things like that. Um, and those are all great programs. But at that time, when we were producing, there wasn't a that we knew of there was a program that were allowed you to record vocals and also had like an extensive sound bank to where you can hook up like a module like the Novation and really just create all types of amazing sounds, you know what I mean? And hook up other gear, yet your Yamaha motif that we have, and the Novation ultrasound that we use, and just connecting that right into Logic to make all these wonderful sounds, man. And yeah, I mean, Logic really was a trailblazer in that realm.
Yeah, definitely was a trailblazer, and not to say, as we were trying to figure out which one we want to go with, I was like, it has everything in here, and
Yeah.
it was really great to see. And I think it was kind of touching on producing, and I know this may be a question you have, but I wanted to talk about just like I initially started off as a beat maker,
Hmm.
where it's like making beats and like, hey, let me know how you feel, like, can you
Yeah.
write to this? And then looking at producing or being an executive producer, it's that next extension of beat making where it's like, oh, I made that track,
Yeah.
and then now I'm in the studio with the artist, pulling in harmonies or adding in harmonies for them, you know recording them. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's like a recording engineer, but
Yeah.
as a producer you also can have those skills of recording the artist,
Yeah.
again, delivery technique, adding in different sounds, all those different things. So once I started to get comfortable with you working and all those things, that's what I kind of transitioned from a beat maker into also being a producer.
It's funny you just mentioned that because that actually was my next question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because yeah, but it's great that we're touching on this. So many many artists may not even realize that there are differences, uh the different types of producer that you touched on, which is the beat maker, and then there's people like Timbaland, is one of my favorite producers and inspiration, right? So, but you might have guys like a Timbaland or like a Sean Combs or somebody like that who people may not realize that they have a staff of beat makers, right? You know what I mean? And they might just be sitting in the room and saying, okay, you know what? I like that beat. Give me that sound. And their fingers may not be actually touching, you know what I mean, the sounds, but they're instructing or directing, I should say, some of their staff, and then they put their name on it as producer. But they're still in the room, and just directing and guiding the other musicians and things like that to make the sound and the music that they want to make. So you have those type of producers, right? And then you have producers who are straight hands on, just like like you mentioned, just hands on the keys, on the knobs, on the buttons, and and things like that. So I think that's a good point, for people to be aware of that there are different types of producers.
And going into that, I think this is something that we're seeing on the business side, where producers are now asking for, and again, this has happened in the past, but we're seeing it happen more frequently. Producers are asking for publishing, right? Because they're realizing that I just don't want. So what that means is you have the sound recording, which is the actual full song, and then you have the publishing, the composition, which are the lyrics, and actual the music composition, all those different chords and all those things. So typically in the past, it was a norm for the producer just to get a percentage of the sound recording, But as we're seeing producers really continue to evolve into not just here's the, here's the track, and I'm gonna help you out a little bit in the studio. It's like I'm also helping you frame the lyrics. I'm also helping you frame the harmonies, the melody. So not only am I going to get a percentage of the sound recording, I'm also going to tap into that publishing bucket as well. Because
Wow.
again, we're seeing that evolve, and producers getting compensated from both sides.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, touching on that, right? So, the, when you and I started doing like the spaceman and things like that, it was a whole different industry, music industry, man. And even me taking a little bit of a music hiatus from, from singing, from songwriting, producing, and it's just, things like that, taking my break and coming back. And you actually had to help me with this because, I was used to the music industry being one way, and then I come back and everything has changed, you know, to, streaming and, things like that. And then I think I asked you like, okay, so, at one point, there was a discussion of, is the music industry dead? You know what I mean? And then I'm like, well, is it even worth it to try to make, any kind of money in this? Like, how are independent artists, independent musicians, you know, if you're not on a major label or things like that, or you may say you have your own label or publishing company and you're trying to figure out how you can make some money, like, how can the independent artists survive in this new change, this new music industry?
Yeah, it's a question that many independent artists have, and those members, their team members, are asking themselves as well. And I think that the industry as a whole has been on a rise. So when I got into it during the CD to digital download transition, and then transition into streaming, it was a U curve, right? And the industry kind of went down because the margins were less. Um, and then when streaming, Spotify really came to the United States in around the 2012 range, the industry started to just rise because of the access to so much music
Yeah,
and so many different users. So you have the freemium version on Spotify and the premium version. You have hundreds of millions of people that are engaging with content, not just to talk about Spotify, but you have Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these different, Pandora, all these different things.
yeah,
And the industry has been on an upward trend for 7+ years because of that. Collectively talking about major companies, major artists, all of that. Now the independent artists, you might work on a track, release it, market, promote it, get 10,000 streams, and then you get $30 in your account.
yeah. Hmm.
And you're like, wait a
Wow.
second, 10,000 streams is a great amount of engagement here. How come I'm only getting 30? And I
Yeah.
always tell artists is you have to continue to grow in your fan base, but also understand that this is a piece of your pie.
Hmm.
When you actually, as an independent artist, are really just zoned into your streaming royalties, that can be a very hard task until you get into that Spotify algorithm, into the system where you now having 100, 200, 300,000 monthly listeners, where you start to see that income come in pretty steadily on a monthly basis.
Hmm.
And even then, I always say diversify. It's not just about your streaming bucket. You're ensuring that you, as a writer, you're grabbing your publishing revenue via ASCAP, BMI, your sound exchange, your music licensing collective, which collects mechanical royalties as a writer,
Yeah.
other things as well, other career paths that may align with music, whether it's teaching, educating, giving lessons, those types of things, or something that's completely different outside
Yeah.
of the music business that's sustaining you financially.
Yeah.
All that, obviously, shows, touring, merchandising, direct to consumer, all of those things start to add up to your full monthly revenue pie. And you see, okay, now I can make a full living off of this. And I
Yeah.
think many artists end up going, I just had to go the streaming route, make my money off this. And when you get that $30 a month, it's not sustainable. Or
Yeah.
I need to go out on tour, um, and try to gain some money here, but not realizing that it costs a lot of money to go out on tour.
Yeah.
So it's, and to break even at that standpoint as an up and coming artist, independent artist. So it's like having something that's going to keep you steady income wise as you start to build those other areas to a point where you can now start moving slices because the other slices are getting larger, like you're streaming, like you're touring.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. And actually, speaking with you, I kind of want to have you on a second episode actually when we kind of delve more in depth on things like that, like other being able to just the discussion of having a job, a normal 9 to 5, while still working towards your music. There's just like some kind of stigma against uh, you know, artists that if you have a 9 to 5, that you're not 100% going in on your music or whatever. But it's just like, someone like myself, like I work in tech, right? And that allows me to sustain myself, my family, pay my bills, um, keep ourselves afloat when, or if the music is not paying that, you know what I mean? So I think it's okay to have something like that and still be able to pursue your dreams. I feel like it's not longer or the days where it's like, you know, I have to live on the street or in my van or or whatever, and I gotta do this grind. You know what I mean? Because I'm trying to get on. Like I think that those days are gone. I think, at least for me, in my opinion, I feel like there's independent artists now are saying, you know what, I can still grind. I can still do this. I can still tour. I can still perform. I can still make albums and make money on the side and still have a job until that area, opens up for me a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think that's something unfortunately that the industry kind of makes it seem that way. Like I'm gonna grind, do all these different things to finally get that record deal, that record advance that's going to change my
Yeah.
life, family's
Sorry.
life.
Sorry to cut you off. Ducky's in here. Come here, Duck.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Duck man. You want to say hello to everybody?
Guest appearance, guest appearance.
Guess the parents. Here we go. Say hello to everybody.
Ha ha ha.
He almost cut off the microphone. Say
Oh, good.
hello. Say hi to Uncle Stevie and everybody.
It's
Yeah, go
always
ahead,
fun.
man. Yeah, go ahead, man. Yeah, he might
Always
he might
fun.
just join us. He might just join us. Yeah,
No worries. It is what it is. I know we're winding down,
yeah,
but that's what it is. It's really about artists knowing that
yeah,
not that way. You don't have to um give everything up
yeah,
for that hope, for your dreams. And I say it because, to be honest, you need money
yeah.
to get noticed because industry
So
see
true.
first. They see first and listen second. So
Wow.
you send them something, they're looking at your social media channels, they're looking at your engagement, they're looking at your Spotify plays, all of those different things, your analytics. And you need that marketing strategy, that marketing budget
Hmm.
to start to engage that fan base. So when you're, putting all you can into your art,
Yeah,
hoping that someone can notice you and then get you signed to a deal and all those things, the industry is not, for the most part, not operating that way. It's operating. Do you have an audience already? Do you have a team already? Do you have the professional music already? And
yeah,
the way that you can get that is by having that 9 to 5 that's fueling your marketing budget, right? That's
yeah,
fueling that. So you can now record, you can now market, promote, do digital advertising, do collect, pay people for features, all those different things. So now when the industry sees you, you're coming with a team, you're
yeah.
coming with the numbers, you're coming with the analytics, and that's what takes you to that next level.
Wow.
So I think artists have to start understanding, if they're not already, that it's okay to
Yeah,
have that job that maybe out completely outside of your what you're doing,
yeah,
but it's you have to look at it as this is my money source to invest in my dreams.
yeah. Yo, that's real talk, man. Our next episode, dude, I want to get you on some topics I wasn't able to discuss in this episode is just like music internships because I had one, you had some, um um that's kind of what we touched on more in depth of having a job and still being a musician or a independent artist. More of where like the direction of the music industry, is the music industry dead? What can independent artists do? And kind of want to talk also in the next episode about your career as a professor, because I think that's impressive what you're doing at the University of Arts in Philadelphia. So I'm gonna get you, definitely gonna get you on the next app, man. It may be our second episode actually, if you don't mind, man. But I want to thank you, man, for showing up and being a guest and providing such great information for our audience, for myself too. And I think it's very appreciative of myself and independent artists, musicians, engineers, producers, anyone who's trying to get more information and learn about the music industry, man. So thank you for being our first guest on Studio Talk.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to the next episode, diving into all those different areas. And I will say this before we end: the music industry is at an amazing place.
Mm.
It may not seem that way with your royalties as independent artists,
Mhm.
but the industry as a whole is thriving. And I think it's time for independent artists to really come together and start to take equity
Yeah,
in the industry. So I think
yeah,
we definitely dive into that side of it where, you
yeah.
know, no long other days where the independent artists are going to be left out in the cold, where why the industry is thriving. So we're going to start to talk about strategies and ways in which the independent community can start tapping into these resources.
I'm with it, bro. I'm 100% with it because I feel energetically. I feel like, artists have to know, like, you don't have to be that struggling artist trying to make it, bro. Like, yo, you already made it. You dig what I'm saying? Like, but we want to give the audience strategies, tips,
Strategies, right?
how to do it the right way. So yes, that's
That's
gonna
what we do.
be
Let's break it down. We'll break it down.
all
Next
right. All right.
episode.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, man. In the next,
Strategies
man.
on sustaining and thriving.
Yeah, I love it. All right, bro. Yo, we'll talk to you, man.
All right, sounds great.
All right, be safe, bro.
Peace.
Duckman, you want to say bye to your uncle?
Declan.
Duckman, you might be